27 minutes to 1 here on the Sunday edition of All Angles with me, Cindy Mabi. Thank you for joining us. SAHRC grant recipients were left frustrated last month after they didn't receive their money, and a post-bank system glitch resulted in about 500,000 beneficiaries not being paid. Now, the Human Rights Commission has met a delegation from the bank and the Communications Department. And to tell us more, we're joined by Fatima Chohan from the Commission. Good afternoon to you, Fatima, and thank you so much for joining us. Just a very quick status report on the SAHRC debacle.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. Yes, we met with the Post Bank as well as the Department of Communication last Thursday to discuss a few things. Our interest, of course, is a human rights interest, and we were particularly looking for assurances that all of the people who had been impacted by the systems glitch of the Post Bank were in fact assisted. And secondly, we were looking forward to the October payment cycle, and these are the two issues that we discussed in particular.
So you weren't necessarily looking at punitive measures, in other words, to punish the glitches that had happened at the Post Bank and to a large extent with the Social Development Department, but yours was just a reassurance that this matter will not reoccur. But then how do we know that this may not happen again?
Well, we had some discussions related to what went wrong technically. And I just want to clarify, what we understand went wrong. The glitch did not happen on the part of SAHRC. The glitch was essentially a glitch that related to the switching system of the Post Bank. Now, I'm not a technical wizard, but as I understand what the switching glitch was that the system that allows one to use any bank's ATM to transact on one's bank account, regardless of which bank you bank with, was what went wrong on Post Bank's side. Now, Post Bank has a contract with SAHRC, and that contract does, in fact, enable SAHRC to affect penalties against Post Bank. And one of the issues we discussed with SAHRC when we met with them earlier in the week was precisely the nature of these penalties. And we are awaiting some of their legal advisors to come back to us as to whether, in fact, those penalty clauses apply in this case.
Fatima, just in your view and how the matter was handled as well, particularly from a public relations point of view, and reassuring the members of societies and beneficiaries of SAHRC grants that we're dealing with a caring organization, a caring government, a caring department. Do you think that was necessarily handled with the necessary compassion it required?
Look, it does seem that, people were caught off guard. And initially, when the glitches started happening, they were not alive to what exactly caused the problems. And so by the third day of the crisis, and the crisis essentially happened over 3 days, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. By the 7th, they did understand what had gone wrong technically, and had put in measures to mitigate whatever had gone wrong in terms of their clients, meaning Post Bank's clients, who were unable to access their funds from ATMs. But whether this was handled correctly in terms of communication and the timeliness of the interventions, I think could have happened sooner. But I think they've certainly learned a lot of lessons out of what had happened.
And let's just go back to the Human Rights Commission and what your influence is, and especially now holding to account those in leadership when it comes to the poorest of the poor, most vulnerable and marginalized members of our society, what your voice had added to this whole debacle.
Well, we obviously have been very, very concerned when we understood that there were, in fact, pensioners and people living with disabilities who were affected by the system's glitches on the part of Postbank. We immediately sought answers from the Department initially of Social Development, and eventually this led to us meeting. And because, it was a train that was in motion and they had to fix it while it was in motion, it took some time for them to come with answers. We, of course, have an oversight role as far as the rights of people are concerned, particularly the most vulnerable in our society. And we take that mandate very, very seriously. And we communicated this to the department initially. And it was only on Thursday that I think we were able to get the real insight into what had happened technically. And part of the difficulty, of course, is that Postbank is required by the South African Reserve Bank to be in a constant state and process of upgrading or modernizing their system. And they will be continuing to migrate their systems and modernize their systems as we continue into the year. And for this reason, we have decided as the South African Human Rights Commission to monitor very closely these upgrades. And this is why we are particularly concerned with what is going to happen in the October cycle, which begins next week. And so we would all, learn from what happens next week as to whether, in fact, we can expect more such glitches in the future.
All right, and as a Chapter 9 institution, when it comes to elevating matters, if you feel it hadn't been resolved adequately, what then is the recourse for the South African Human Rights Commission to make sure that all the commitments and promises that had been made for a smooth transition of the system itself and access to the social grants going forward?
The Commission can only influence through discussion and oversight and monitoring. We, of course, have the mandate to litigate where necessary, but our first priority must be to ensure that those who need their grants, who survive on a day-to-day basis because of their social grants, are able to access them as quickly and efficiently as possible. And this is where we're setting our sights at this stage. Litigation, as you know, is a rather drawn-out process, but we have been very happy with the cooperation that we received from DSD, from the Postbank as well, and we hope to continue these engagements to ensure that we proactively fashion, our influence and our challenges and their challenges and our influence on their processes.
And I mean, the reality is also that the beneficiaries who utilize the Postbank services in many cases do not have any other alternatives. There may not be retail banks or even retailers available in those areas, so they are solely dependent on accessing their grants on the Postbank, and we certainly hope that we will not see a repeat of what happened in September.
Well, we are certainly working along those lines as well, and our hopes are similar to yours.
All right, Fatima, thank you indeed for your time. Really appreciate it. We're speaking to Fatima Chohan from the South African Human Rights Commission. She's the Deputy Chair, just responding on their engagement with the South African Post Bank, the South African Social Development Department, as well with regards to the SAHRC debacle we saw in September, where many beneficiaries had not received their payments due to a glitch in the Post Bank technical system.